Hi everyone, I'll get my screen up in just a second. Here we go. All right, so we should be good to get started now. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We have a special webinar for you this morning, and I'm speaking to you from San Francisco in California, where it's rather gray and cloudy. I hope it's a little bit more pleasant wherever you are today. My name is Simon Thompson. I'm the Cloud Networking Technical Evangelist here at Cisco Meraki. And today we're going to be focusing on looking at a full stack, full speed, and fully loaded cloud managed network at the Clint Newell Auto Group. And on the agenda today, we will start off with an introduction to Cisco Meraki. We'll just go through some of the basics so you understand who we are and how we got to where we are today. And we'll have a look at some of the benefits that our customers derive by using this cloud-based approach to managing a data network. Then going to introduce Ryan from the Clint Newell Auto Group, who's going to take us through his experience with working through Meraki. We'll take a look at the challenges that were being faced there and why we looked at a new network to go into that location and what the experience has been like working with that. And we'll have time to have a look at a dashboard demonstration where we can have a look at the Clint Newell Auto Group dashboard, so we can have a look at their network, see how things are configured and set up, and just work our way through that. We'll certainly have time for some questions during the session. Probably towards the end, we'll share some of the questions with you. But over on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll find a tool which you can use to ask a question at any time during the next hour. Because I am joined today by my very trusty colleague, Kat, who is bouncing up and down with excitement at the thought of answering your difficult technical questions. So if any pop into your mind whilst I'm presenting, please just tap away using that tool. Let's keep Kat nice and busy, and we'll share some of those with you towards the end. We'll also have a look at product families from Cisco Meraki. Now, I'm very happy to announce that for IT professionals who are joining us for the first time today, you will qualify for a free Cisco Meraki 822.11n access point. And this comes together with a 3-year cloud management license. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to get your hands on some of our hardware. But even more importantly than that, and the real reason why we do this, is we're very keen to get this equipment into your hands so that you can try it out in your own network environment and in your own time at a time that suits you best. And this is because Meraki is very much all about experiencing the dashboard and working with the management interface. And we're very confident that once you start doing so, you'll very quickly fall in love with the way in which we do things. So we're very happy to be able to make this offer to you, and we have some eligibility details for the offer on our website at meraki.cisco.com/free AP. Now, we just ask that you please give us a call to confirm your shipping information. We want to make sure we get that access point sent to the correct address. So you'll find details for how to reach out to us in the reminder email that you received for joining today's webinar. Alternatively, if you have a look at our website, you will find the details for contacting us on there. All right, let's get things moving with a look at Cisco Meraki. So what we offer to the marketplace is a complete cloud-managed networking solution, and this really is everything you need to build a local area network. So it comprises wireless, switching, security appliances for protecting your network, and mobile device management software for managing your mobile devices. And all of this is centrally managed over the web via your web browser, and that's what we're going to have a look at during the demonstration today. Our technology was derived from a research project that our founders undertook whilst they were students at MIT, and this was in the early 2000s, and they had a project there they called RoofNet. Now, RoofNet was a project related to wireless mesh networking, and so what we did was we had a bunch of access points sitting on rooftops in the Cambridge, Massachusetts area, and these were all meshed together, sharing data between them. And what we came up with was a new and innovative way of centrally managing those APs. I'm sure you can imagine Boston area, it's pretty cold in the wintertime. You don't really want to be going on the rooftops of buildings if you can possibly avoid it. So a centralized management approach became very, very much a sensible idea. Now, at the time, the industry was largely working with APs that were had to be configured individually, one at a time, and was just starting to look at centralized models. And most of the industry went in the direction of having hardware-based controllers. What Meraki decided to do was go for a software-based approach, and this is really technology that we nowadays refer to as cloud. So this has become the most overused term in the history of IT. You hear it every single day if you're involved in technology, but really for us, cloud has true meaning because it's the original architecture that we've always worked with since our business started. So we've been operating since 2006, and we've been experiencing very strong growth, very popular management interface, as you're going to see very soon, and product range as well. And this has helped us to achieve triple-digit annual growth since we started back there in 2006. Now, in 2012, we caught the attention of a little company you may have heard of called Cisco. They decided to acquire Meraki during that year, and so we became part of that much larger networking family. Today we are still recognized very much for our innovation within Cisco, and we have previously won some very nice awards, like the InfoWorld Technology of the Year award you can see on the screen there, previously been given to products like the iPhone and the iPad, so we're in pretty good company there. And we've been trusted by thousands of customers around the world. Obviously, we're focusing on a specific one today, but there are many across multiple different types of organization and verticals. So if you want to have a look at our website, you're going to find lots and lots of case studies, video interviews, that kind of thing. Just hop along to meraki.cisco.com/customers. So what we're doing here is bringing the concept of the cloud to managing a data network. So let's take a step back and think about this for a moment. Pretty much all of us nowadays are using some form of web-based email for our primary email service. So things like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail. These are the predominant services that we use for email nowadays. And it's because of the convenience that it gives us, being able to access our data and our emails from any device with a browser, from wherever we happen to be with an internet connection. What I find slightly more interesting than that example is online banking. Most people I speak to nowadays are doing their banking on the internet as well. So this is obviously very secure information. It's very precious to us, and we are still prepared to do this across the internet using a cloud-based service because of the sheer convenience that it brings for us. So what we decided to do was adapt the same approach and apply it to managing a data network. So we moved right away from these cryptic command line interfaces that have been very common in the world of networking for many years, and instead we have a 100% graphical user interface, which is very easy to get to grips with. If you have your understanding of networking in place, you're going to be right at home on Meraki in no time at all. So this equipment is all designed to be managed in this way via a web browser. And so if you look closely, for example, at the switches, you will not find an Ethernet port for a console. That's what the word I was looking for. So the products are not designed to be managed locally. They have a very basic local interface allowing you to get them connected to the internet if you need to set, for example, a static IP address or a proxy address to get out to the internet. Beyond that, everything else is really done via the web browser at your convenience. So why have we taken this approach? Why have we bothered to try and remodel the world of data networking? It's really just because we have so many devices and applications to deal with nowadays. When I first came into the workplace quite a long time ago now, I sat at the same desk every single day. I had a fixed computer with a cable to the floor and just 2 or 3 networked applications, email, database, that kind of thing. It was a very simple, deterministic environment, and therefore very easy to design a network around. We knew the network was going to function and operate just fine, what we were asking it to do at that time. Today, however, we have just changed everything completely, and almost every single day now we are seeing changes happening in terms of devices coming onto our networks, and certainly in terms of applications. Just think of all the apps you've got running on your smartphone, all of which will be using the network in some form, even if it's just for software updates. So if you're trying to run some of the more video and rich media applications that are becoming more and more common in the workplace, you're going to run into potential issues if you're just swamping your network with lots and lots of data. And most customers I speak to really have no idea what's going on in their network environment, and that's because the information is just too difficult to get to. It's not that their network equipment can't provide this data, it's just that it's very difficult to retrieve and difficult to interpret. So that's been a key focus for Meraki, to make the network interface, the management interface, a pleasant experience to work with, so that you can go in and ensure that your customers, the users of your network, are getting best experience all the time. So just taking a moment to look at the architecture, it's all based around this cloud-hosted network service, and you as a network admin will connect via your web browser, and you're not connecting directly to the Meraki hardware that you operate on the site. What you're doing instead is you're connecting to cloud-based servers to which the Meraki equipment is also connected. Now the point of this is it gives you enormous flexibility, because now all your configurations, the master copies of those, are held on these servers up in the cloud, and we have multiple servers around the world, so we've got lots and lots of resilience there for your configuration data. And then the Meraki equipment is persistently connected to the cloud as well. So when it's switched on, it will attempt to phone home, and whatever configuration you have given to the equipment will be pushed down as a copy of the configuration to run locally on the Meraki hardware. So it's a very efficient model which scales extremely well, but I just want to stress the point that your connection to the cloud from the Meraki hardware is purely used for management purposes. So this is so that you can send configuration changes to the Meraki devices, and in the opposite direction you want to be able to retrieve statistics around how your network is being used, so you've got a good view of that. So just taking this one step further, if you have a look at the red line on the diagram on the left, labeled user traffic, this is actually showing us the traffic you generate as you operate through your local area network. So your email, web traffic, voice over IP traffic, all of that just goes directly to wherever it's headed, wherever its destination IP address happens to be. It does not pass through our cloud, and that's a really important point to stress. I'm sure you can imagine if we tried to do that for the tens of thousands of customers that we have, we would not have a very scalable solution at all. So all we're sending up to the cloud is that tiny amount of management data. It runs about 1 to 1.5 kilobits per second per Meraki device, enabling us to maintain that connection and to use it for transferring config changes and operational statistics. So it does scale very, very well. We do have some customers running as many as 10,000 devices within a single network, and they're also able to roll equipment out very efficiently, because unlike in the old days where you had to take your equipment out of its cardboard box, plunk it on the desk, and pre-stage it, set it up to operate the way you want, there's no need to do that with Meraki, because what you interface with is the cloud servers themselves. So you don't actually connect directly to the hardware, which means that you can have the hardware shipping directly from a warehouse to wherever it's going to be deployed. That does not prevent you from logging onto the dashboard and configuring that equipment the way you want it to be. Then when it arrives at site, you just need somebody smart enough to plug it in, and it will then suck down its config that you've given it and begin operating with that straight away. So hugely efficient for rollouts. Now, obviously, the cloud service is our business that we maintain on your behalf. And so we have multiple data centers right across North America, over in Europe, and in the Asia-Pacific region as well. And we are able to provide an SLA, a service level agreement, for our customers of 4 nines, 99.99% uptime, and that is consistent with the industry standard for cloud services. But a very key point to note, and it may be a question on your mind if you're new to this approach, is what happens to my local area network if my connection to the cloud is interrupted? Well, the good news is, as I mentioned previously, a copy of the master configuration is sent down from the cloud servers to the Meraki hardware. So the hardware itself is always running a near real-time copy of the configuration. So if you're disconnected from the cloud for any reason, you're just going to continue to operate your network using that configuration. So you won't be able to make config changes, you won't be able to monitor your network during that period, but you will at least be able to continue operating your local area network as though nothing has happened. So as far as security is concerned, obviously it's very important that our customers trust us with this approach, as it is a public cloud service. So the good news here is that we have achieved some very important industry standards which help us to gain the confidence of our customers. So for example, we are fully HIPAA compliant. We are also PCI compliant to level 1, which is the most stringent level of PCI compliance. We perform third-party security audits of our data centers and daily penetration testing. And a really good website that's listed at the bottom of the screen here, meraki.cisco.com/trust. I do recommend you have a look at that one later on. It's really going to help you to gain confidence in our approach. Now, as far as future-proofing your network is concerned, one of the things that's most enjoyable about working with Meraki hardware is the way in which new features are being added all the time. So as we create new hardware, we typically ship it with what we believe to be a relevant set of features for the market into which it is going. And at that point, then, we switch our focus to listening to your feedback. So you tell us how you think the product should be developed and what you think could be added to it. And then over time, we will evolve the product and add new features at no additional cost to you. And this is something which we have become very popular and well known for. So we update our blog very regularly with new features that we've been adding right across our portfolio. So that's a good place to go and look just to see the kind of things that we're up to. Okay, so time to switch gears slightly, and that's probably quite a good pun there. And it's time to introduce Ryan from the Clint Newell Group, who's going to take us through a look at the deployment that's been done there. So Ryan, if you'd like to just quickly introduce yourself and let us know who you are and exactly what you do for the Auto Group.
Well, thanks, Simon. So for those who don't know me, my name's Ryan Parker, and I am the IT manager over here at Clint Newell Auto Group. We run an exclusive Meraki shop, so we're 100% Meraki all the way through. We used to run a mixture, like a mixed environment, some older equipment, some newer equipment, but obviously I'll let Simon take care of that on his end as far as how we've come along and progressed and where we are now. So
sure.
That's pretty much the high-level overview of what we do at the dealership in my department, I should say. So our day-to-day operations is to be able to manage the incoming ISP, whether it's one or two or multiple ISP providers that are coming into the facility, as well as the end users. So a variety of areas that we cover.
Okay, so that's great. Thank you, Ryan. Let's just get into the meat of it then. So we've got a nice slide here which just introduces exactly what Clint Newell does. So if you wouldn't mind just taking us through this, and also would you mind explaining what on earth that yellow duck is on the top of the building? I'm rather curious about what that might be.
Yeah, we get a lot of positive and mixed feedback in regards to that duck. So that duck usually stays on our building when it's not blown up. It stays on the top of the roof, just flattened, so that way obviously people can't see it. But the duck signifies basically we do a lot of local community events in our area, in our valley. The duck is signified since 1998. We've been a primary sponsor for women's advocacy or battered women's advocacy, as well as CASA and a couple of other nonprofit organizations in here. And basically what we do is we sell little tiny rubber ducks at our facility and other sponsorships that we have with other vendors or businesses locally in the community. And at the end of selling all the ducks, it usually goes for about 3 to 4 months of selling ducks. And then towards the end of the summer, we release a big, well, in lack of better words, a big garbage bin that has all of the ducks in it. And usually in between 30 to 40,000 ducks get dumped into the river. And then they float downriver for about, I want to say about a mile, give or take a little bit. And then they have a huge net at the end of the river that the ducks go into. And the first 10 ducks that go into a tube, they get prizes based off of what the sponsorship is, and all of the funds and proceeds and everything all go to the nonprofit organizations to help children in need, women in need, basically men in need, any sort of domestic violence or anything like that. So that being said, there are significant prizes and other local sponsorships in the community that we give away. One of them being us is a brand new car that it's lucky enough to have the first duck go into the slot. So it's all basically a good cause, and that signifies the duck on top of the roof, as well as other sponsorships have a duck on their roof as well.
Nice story. All right, so tell us a little bit about the dealership and how it's actually physically arranged, so we can get a sense of what the network requirements might be for those locations.
So the dealership, as you can see in the photo, I don't know if you can see the photo very well, but there's a tiny dealership. It used to be the bike shop. That it actually used to be split into 2 lots right there. So the little blue building, or the blue arch, I should say, is our Chevy building over on the right-hand side, and the main building is our Toyota building, as well as our used department. And then the main building also has our service department, body shop, rental, and the rest of our departments that make our day-to-day operations succeed.
All right.
Basically, on the left-hand side on the lot side is all of our used cars, and then we have another budget lot down the road. It's about a mile north of us that we have a VPN tunnel set up through Meraki, through our firewall, that we control and we can set up with what they have access to and what they don't have access to. And it's, like I said, it's about a mile and a half down the road, and it works tremendously as far as the 3 dealerships go.
Okay, let's get into some of the meat of it then. So getting started with Meraki, I guess quite interested to just hear the story around, what prompted you to start looking around at other networking solutions. It says here we got a requirement to replace old APs. So I'm interested in hearing what kind of challenges you were having with your previous network solution and what it was that attracted you in the direction of Meraki.
So our previous network, just to give you a high-level overview, is we had a chassis 4506, we had a Cisco switch, and we had several blades inside that chassis. The issue when I first came aboard is, the chassis was very old and not supported anymore by Cisco, so it had an EOL life expectancy of it, and apparently it had expired at that point. B, the other issues were the switches in there were, some of them were 10 by 100, some of them were 10 by 100, 1000. And then C, the other issue is that we had issues with PoE power. So some of them were PoE plus, some of them were not. So therefore, when it came to powering, I'll just use this as an example, like APs or IP phones, we ran into a couple challenges of which switches they had to be on, etc. So, and that was a little tough considering, with anybody that's familiar with the Cisco 4506 chassis, or switch I should say, it's all Cisco native language command line prompt. So
a little bit challenging.
Yeah, I mean, your average IT guy probably wouldn't necessarily know Cisco native language, but I'm not saying they can't learn it, just saying that out of the box you probably wouldn't know it. And then the other piece or challenges that we were having was the access points. We require, in our dealership, we had to get something that was going to be able to mesh and be able to be seen and controlled from a high level perspective as well as like a cloud managed perspective, and that's why we originally went down the road with Meraki, because we did a trial basis with their APs. We did some outdoor APs, we did some indoor APs when we first went live with Meraki, I should say. But overall, we learned in the end of all this that Meraki's indoor APs were so powerful and sophisticated that we didn't really need the outdoor APs per se, because of the fact that we had enough coverage with all of the Meraki APs that we put in place, I should say.
It's great. It's a good story. Let's move on to the next one. So just having a look at the different products that got installed here. So range of APs, MR16s, which is a slightly older one now, so that's been around for quite a few years, and the MR34, which is our flagship 82.11 AC access point. So you're getting good experience with those newer APs?
Yeah, so to elaborate on that story, we started with MR16s. We liked them. We grew as a dealership. We decided that we were going to move forward with being an exclusive Meraki partnership. And at that point in time, we made the decision to change them all out for MR34 APs. Obviously, the MR34 is very new. The MR34, though, we absolutely love the MR34 from a dealership standpoint, because of the fact that we don't have the issues with interfering radio frequencies, because the MR34 is smart enough with that third chip utilization in it to understand, hey, I'm going to conflict with this if I boost the power up on the radio any higher, so I'm just going to downscale it and everybody will play nice, I guess would be a good way of putting it.
Okay, so there's quite a few interesting things you've got that you're benefiting from here, things like the RF optimization, third radio for security, guest Wi-Fi. Why don't we take a break from the slides for a second, and I'll switch across to my web browser, and we can actually have a look at the deployment there. so that we can share with everybody how it's actually all set up. So to do that, let me just switch across to my web browser, and I'm just going to start us off with a look at the, hang on one second, the overview for the Clint Newell Auto Group locations. So just loading up here, one of the things that I really want to highlight for you is that we have integration with Google Maps here, which is a really nice component of working with Meraki. So if I go over here, I can just go to the organization center, the main locations. So you can see a couple of the sites there. And here are the networks that we have configured at the Clint Newell Auto Group. And I should point out quickly that obviously Ryan's given us permission to be able to share this with you today so that we can just have a look and see how things are set up. This is the beauty of cloud management. We can obviously set up multiple administrators on a network and give permissions to different people to be able to go in and make changes appropriately. So if you are managing a slightly larger IT team, that's a really powerful functionality to have at your fingertips. Integration with Google Maps lets us see, we just put in the address of the equipment and then we can see exactly where it is physically located. So let me jump into one of these networks. I'm just going to expand here so you can see the full expanded view. So we can see here the list of networks. We've got 3 of them here, and these are networks comprising multiple pieces of Meraki equipment. So security appliances, switches, wireless, and mobile device management software as well. And we can see that across these 3 networks, we've seen a total of 938 unique client devices, which is really quite a sizable number of devices to be on there, and quite a large amount of data transferred as well. 11 terabytes of traffic is certainly quite a significant amount. So let's jump into the main site here, CNAG. And I'll just walk you through the type of experience you might have as a network administrator. And Ryan, obviously, feel free to interrupt me, jump in at any point as you see fit. So here we're looking at a list of all the clients who've been connected to this network over the past day. And when I say all, this means it encompasses our switch clients, our access point clients, and our security appliance clients as well. So let's just pick on one of these. I'm just going to have a look at the access point clients alone. And we have seen 101 client devices there. So you can actually see Ryan's Mac Pro is right at the top of the list, and we can see the traffic profile over the past day. Let's change that to the past week. So a very easy interface to work with, and you can see it immediately repopulates with whatever we want to look at. This is a configurable interface as well, so I can move these columns around. I can also sort by any one of these columns, which is really nice. And over here, I have the ability to add even more information to my screen if it's large enough to accommodate it. Now, sometimes we do find that these lists of clients can get very long. 162 isn't too bad a list. If we looked at the Meraki headquarters, we typically would see around about 1,000 client devices. So if you want to get through a big list like that, it's going to be challenging. So what we do is we use search tools to help us with this. So for example, I could type in iPad, and it's just going to show me the iPads that have been connected to this wireless network in the past week. And we can see which ones are online right now and which ones are offline. And this also works for operating systems. So if I was to type in Windows, for example, I've got 25 matching devices there. And you can see the operating system that they're running on. And this just helps us to get to what it is we're searching for. Now, we're not just doing a simple name-based search here. We are actually doing quite sophisticated device fingerprinting, which allows us to accurately depict what type of device it is that we're looking at. Up in the top right-hand corner, we have what I call the applications pie chart, and this gives us a chance to see the protocols that are using up our bandwidth. So this can get quite noisy, lots and lots of slices of the pie. So what I prefer to do here is just tap on that icon, and then I get a nice drop down here which shows me the type of services that are being used on my network. Now, it's very common, pretty much any business you go and look at, you're going to see the same kind of thing. It's going to be the more sort of data-hungry applications like video streaming, music streaming services, voice over IP, that kind of thing, typically going to be appearing at the top of your list. And so we could take an example of a particular application. Let's imagine that in your own network environment, you might not be too happy about the amount of iTunes traffic that you've been seeing on the network, for example. So all you need to do here is just tap on the word iTunes, and the next step is that we can then see who is contributing to that iTunes traffic. So we have an iPad at the top of the list here, and so that is obviously the main device that's consuming iTunes traffic. And it's very easy to let us access this information in detail. We just go one step further and we get a location for the device as well. So we have integration with Google Maps. Whoops, hang on a second. Do that again. Okay, that was not the right move. Never mind. The integration with Google Maps is a really nice addition that we have here so that we can locate an individual client. What we do normally is when we deploy access points, we can actually put their addresses into the dashboard here, and that will then plot those APs onto a map. And you can even upload your own floor plans here if you wish to do so. You can then plot the APs onto those floor plans, and then you can show the location of the clients who are live on there right now. So Ryan's iPad seen quite recently, and it was connected to this access point. And notice that I can jump directly from this view straight away to the hardware itself that we're connecting to. So one of the beauties of the Meraki dashboard approach is this use of hyperlinks to just jump around like this and see where everything is. So here we're looking now at a view which is specifically about the access points, the MR34 in this case. And this is obviously the one, as I said, that the iPad is connected to right now. So we've got details here, some notes have been added, we've got the address for the AP. We can also see the SSIDs, that's the wireless networks that have been configured. So we've got 5 enabled and 1 that's disabled at this point in time. And we support up to 15 of these SSIDs. We've got useful information about the AP, so we can see where it is, as well as we can see which channels it's operating right now. So this is running on channel 11 in the 2.4 gig band and channel 40 in the 5 gig band. So we've got a lot of useful information here for the network administrator, particularly useful when you go into things like radio planning. With this view, we can see the clients who are currently associated to this access point. So we're looking at things from a slightly different perspective. And these are the clients that are online right now. And as I said to you before, hyperlinks are everywhere. So we can just easily jump to individual devices from here if we wish to do that. At the bottom of the screen here, we can see the mesh neighbors. Now, this is something which you don't need to configure. It's completely set up automatically. And this is, you can think of this like a backup for your wired connection to your access points. If your APs are unlucky enough to lose their wired connection for any reason at all, it could be just a cable accidentally disconnected or maybe a power issue somewhere, then it's not a problem because the APs will automatically start to hop their traffic across to a neighboring access point. So that's what we call mesh technology. It's completely automatic, nothing for you to worry about in there at all. As far as looking at the wireless network and how it's set up, we've got here the guest network that the Auto Group uses for visitors to those locations. And you can see here that we are using an open association for the SSID. That means any client can get connected to this network, and then they are simply presented with a splash page. This is quite typical for those kind of services you find in fast food chains and hotels and places like this Auto Group. And then you simply just read some terms and conditions and click OK, and then you're straight onto the network again. So switching to a different type of network, if we go to the sales network, you can see it's set up slightly differently. So now we're looking at the network that the employees themselves use. So we actually require them to authenticate and get connected properly. So in this case, we are using a service called WPA2 Enterprise. And that means that when a client attempts to connect to this wireless SSID, they're going to be relayed to a Radius server, an Active Directory, for example, and they can then get authenticated before they're connected through onto the network. Anything you'd like to highlight for us on there, Ryan?
Well, I mean, I think you touched it, but other than the Radius feature for Meraki is back end is absolutely phenomenal. I have had zero issues with radio servers with you guys.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Is it Active Directory that you're using?
Yep. So .15 is our primary AD, and .21 is our secondary AD.
Cool. One of the nice features built in here is the test widget here, and you can use this to go in and ensure that you have a healthy connection from your access points to that Radius server. So this effectively ensures that you don't have any problems on the networking side. So if your client's having difficulty getting authenticated, it's most likely a problem at the client end of things. A question has come in, Ryan, whilst I was doing that little presentation there, asking about whether you have any significant physical barriers for Wi-Fi signal, things like cement walls, metal tire racks, glass. I expect you do have that kind of thing. Any issues you've encountered there?
Yeah, so I do have a few issues with some firewalls that were built in the dealership. This used to be a Montgomery Ward's building before they went under, or I should say sold out. But during that transition, so what happens with the meshing with the APs specific to the wireless, to the question, is I just have to position the APs a little closer than I would say like an open floor or like an open service bay, etc. I can space them out a little further, but with the areas where I have metal or I have like a firewall that's in place that I'm trying to get through, I'll just position the APs a little closer to each other.
Perfect. Yeah, and this is one of the things where there's really no substitute for doing a proper site survey and experimenting with both the location of your APs, but also the density of those APs as well. We are often asked, how many clients can we connect to a Meraki Wi-Fi network? And the answer to that question is well over 100 clients, no problem at all. But of course, we have to remember this is a shared medium. So the more clients we add into the to a single AP, obviously they're sharing the same amount of bandwidth, so they're going to have more of an impact on that bandwidth. So that's just something to consider. And one of the things that we try to do through the management interface and the screen we're looking at here, in fact, is to give you plenty of information around any potential utilization and interference issues. So it looks like we've got a fairly healthy environment here, quite well designed. It's fairly typical, I would say, in terms of channel reuse. So you've got channels 1, 6, and 11. That's the ones we normally use on the 2.4 gig band. So you can see here that the utilization is pretty healthy for each one of these. But if I was to jump into one of them in a little bit more detail, then we get this information from the tool. And again, this is all built into the dashboard. There's nothing extra to pay here. So you don't have to buy a spectrum analyzer to get a spectrum analyzer. It's included on the dashboard. So as this dancing white line hits the pixels on the screen, it's actually changing the color of those pixels. So over time, it's going to build up an image for you of where you're seeing the predominant level of interference. And in fact, this looks like a very healthy environment. Not too much by way of interference at all. I guess that's because you're quite physically separated from other buildings in the vicinity, Ryan.
Yeah, we have a couple other buildings around us, but for the most part, they don't really interfere with us.
Okay. So another one we might want to have a look at, we'll just give this a try, is the location heat map. So this is going to give us an indication of where the predominant use of clients actually in. So it doesn't look like we have, we haven't actually placed the APs onto the floor plan here, so we're not able to show that in detail. But the way this normally works is that if your APs are plotted onto your floor plans, then we're able to highlight for you where the predominant number of clients are. So this is quite handy in a retail space because it helps you to make sure you have enough APs for the kind of density of clients that you're seeing, but also to make sure that, to give you feedback about where people are spending most time within a building like this. So that's particularly useful in the retail space. And related to that as well is what we call location analytics. So this gives us information around the number of Wi-Fi devices that we have seen, either regardless of whether they're connecting or not to our Wi-Fi network. This is the number of Wi-Fi devices that have been seen by the APs. So you probably know that when you get out your smartphone, you go to your list of SSIDs. That list has to be generated somehow, and that's actually occurring in the background. So your phone, for example, is polling and trying to identify SSIDs that are available. So that enables the AP to briefly communicate with that device. So what we do here is we simply count the number of devices that we're seeing. We're not interested in any more detail than that. But this, as I'm sure you can imagine, could be quite useful to a retail environment like this, because you can get a view of the kind of popularity that you're seeing if you are operating across multiple locations. Sorry, Ryan. Did you have a comment there, Ryan?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. If you do have multiple locations, then you can go in and look at how those compare with each other, for example. So clearly we've got quite a difference in scale between these two locations in this particular case. A passerby is just really described as a device that we just see on one occasion fleetingly. A visitor is somebody who's dwelling in the location for a period of time. So this is people who are a little bit more serious. They've probably come into the dealership and they've been hanging around for 5 minutes or more. And then users who are connected, obviously that's people who've actually logged in and joined one of the Wi-Fi networks there. So there's useful analytics, and again, this comes at no additional cost. It's completely included in the solution that you are purchasing.
And just so you know, the graph, Simon, isn't, it is reporting correctly. We were not open on Monday, so nobody was here.
Oh, that's quite reasonable. I think that's quite reasonable. We all need a break every now and then. Okay, so let me just flip back to the slides for a moment. We've also got a switching network built in here, so a range of 48 port switches and 220s. How have you got on with those? I like the way you described them here, little workhorses.
Yeah, they are. The little 8-port switches is what I was referring to as the little workhorse, and those things are amazing because if you are trying to segregate your network out on specific VLANs, I know they make smart switches out there. I know several manufacturers have them, but I would say every bit worth the penny and dollar for those little 8-port switches. If you have the room to mount them under like a bench or a workstation or wherever you're trying to mount them, they are mountable, and they are just fantastic as far as if you're trying to segregate your printing network out on a separate VLAN, or if you're trying to set your IP phones on a segregated network and you don't want to mix and mesh the IP phones with your day-to-day LAN, or I should say your LAN that's on a VLAN. So, I mean, they're just phenomenal as far as what they can do. And then the 48-port switches we use in our server racks, and that makes the connection through our switch panel back into our server room, and then we just have 7 MS320s. We have them all rack mounted and locked and loaded. We configure the ports on the MS320 sides, and we configure the ports on the little 8-port workhorses, I should say. And I mean, everything just fires up in a matter of minutes, and you're done. I mean, you pretty much just tell it where you want it to point and which VLANs you want them set to. If you have all the configuration and everything done on the back end, then it's pretty easy.
Yeah, there's some couple of really nice things that you've noted on the slides here. I just wanted to also point out that those little 8-port workhorses, as you describe them, one of the things I like about those switches is they're completely fanless, and that's even the case with the Power over Ethernet version of that 8-port switch. So it's just using passive cooling for that, so which makes it perfect for putting out in office environments without disturbing people with lots of fan noise. Nobody wants to have that near them.
Yeah, they're very quiet.
Also, a couple of really nice troubleshooting features. These are fantastic capabilities that I've not seen from any other vendor, and that's the ability to be able to do remote cable testing and packet captures, all from the comfort of your armchair at home, if you so wish. Wherever you happen to be with your web browser, you can run a packet capture on a client device. That is really quite a breakthrough, because previously you'd have to actually be co-present with the switch to be able to plug into a mirrored port so that you could see the traffic there. So this is a really nice troubleshooting arrangement, especially if you are managing multiple physical locations with a single IT team. You may not have IT people on every one of your sites, so that's a nice example to draw attention to. All right, so moving on, we have the MX400 security appliance. This is the big beast that we have. This is actually nearly our flagship security appliance. Obviously, this is protecting your entire environment there, Ryan. What's your experience been like with that one?
So we started with an MX100, just so you know. The reason why we went away from the MX100, and I know Meraki offers a redundant feature on all of their MX appliances, but the real reason we went away from it into the 400 was because it has a dual WAN capability. So for example, in our facility we have 2 ISP providers, so I can plug in on WAN 1 and configure all the traffic shaping off of that, and then I can plug the second one in and configure all the traffic shaping off of that second one, and then we can allocate certain applications to have, hey, I want to allocate 25 meg to iTunes, and then we go and allocate another application to utilize 100 meg, and so on, etc. But the cool part about the firewall piece is it's really what you see there. It's kind of a plug and play operation, and then you set the rules of how you want the traffic to be shaped, etc., and then go from there.
Yeah. As you said,
in my opinion, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy.
That's certainly our aim all the time. And as you said, I mean, this is more than just a firewall as well. So there is, as you've listed on here, 6 devices in one. Really impressive range of capabilities. Are you making use of VPN functionality at all?
Yeah, the VPN is by far the easiest VPN setup I've ever experienced with any sort of firewall or appliance that I've dealt with in the years. But yes, we do use the VPN for our management team here, as well as vendors that need access into our facility, that they don't necessarily have access to everything, but they have access to the specific pieces of equipment that they need.
Very nice. So you're making use of both the site-to-site and the client VPN technology as well. That's really nice. Let me just flip across quickly and just show our attendees that one, because it's quite a nice feature. Probably my single favorite Meraki feature actually is this site-to-site VPN technology. If any of you have ever configured a VPN the traditional way, you will know that it's quite a painful process. I have heard many tales of woe during the course of my career of people trying to get their locations connected to each other. With Meraki VPN, it really is just a matter of about 3 mouse clicks, and you can get your sites connected. So you just go in here, choose what type of VPN you want. So in this particular case, making use of a split tunnel, which is the most efficient way of doing things. And then you simply select which of your subnets you want to share with remote locations that are part of this VPN group. So that is really so simple. You just go down that list and click yes, and then all you do is scroll to the bottom and click Save Changes, and that's it. Your VPN configuration is complete. Everything else is completely automated. We build standard IPsec VPNs between locations. But the key point in what we've done here, we haven't reinvented VPNs altogether. What we've done instead is we've removed some of the rather complex manual steps you have to go through with most vendors' equipment and just automate that, because Meraki to Meraki, it's incredibly simple to do. If you do need to connect a VPN to a third party, then we can do that as well. That's still an option for you. All right, last but not least, we have Systems Manager MDM. Would you like to just describe for us, Ryan, how you're making use of that capability?
Sure. So for the MDM side, it's valuable to a car dealership for several reasons. And I'll just give you the high-level overview reasons. But let's say that for the dealership, your sales team has iPads, and you want to make sure the iPads don't just walk away from the desk, and then your IT team or your management team's trying to track them down, or they forget about them, etc. So the cool part about the MDM is that you can register the device via an Apple enterprise level all the way down to the Meraki management backend tool for MDM, where Meraki will do the heavy lifting for you on the back end of the console, and you can deploy configuration templates, etc. So if you have like a body shop that uses certain applications or certain permissions that they only need access to, then you can configure a template for them, and then you can configure a template for sales, and on down the line, basically. So the cool part about that is it allows you, from a high-level overview, to see where the iPads are at all times, and you can also be able to push to the iPad. So let's say that you have a VPP or some sort of like enterprise app edition with iTunes or whoever that you're trying to deploy to, I should say. And you can do that from an enterprise level, or you can do it from the Meraki dashboard, where you can download the app directly into Meraki System Manager, and then you can give it a tag, and then any device with that specific tag will automatically try to push that app to the device if it does not already have it loaded on it. And it's really cool how it works, because you can get all the way granular to not allowing your people to remove applications from their iPad. The only people that are going to be able to do anything on the iPad as far as installing or uninstalling is the system administrator. So it's really cool how it works, and they've come a long way since we've gone on the MDM, but I would say they knocked that piece out of the park.
That's great. Thank you very much. One of the nice things about Systems Manager is that it's completely free to use up to 100 devices. And so we definitely recommend, if you're interested in trying that out, it's a very nice way of getting introduced to the Meraki world with no hardware required at all. So you can just go in and start managing your devices straight away and see just how sophisticated that is. As Ryan said, we've added a lot of functionality to this, especially in the last 12 months, where we've started to add integration for network policy. So, for example, you can have somebody join a device to a network. They can then be put into a special group which gets, let's say, a dedicated amount of bandwidth for a particular application, or maybe they have another application blocked so they don't have access to that. So there's a lot of flexibility built in there on the network side. But the nice thing is that the MDM tool will work and provide you with a lot of capability regardless of whatever network infrastructure you're using at this point in time. So worth giving that a try.
And that one other thing, Simon, another cool feature to any auto dealers that are on this webinar, or for any other people that may do some sort of the same protocol, is we have customers' data-sensitive information that comes through here, like Social Security, date of birth, etc. And with a geofencing policy allowing in the MDM side of the house, it allows me to, once they leave the facility, to remove the data off of their iPads, almost like a selective wipe. It doesn't wipe the whole iPad, but it removes the applications that we manage internally in the facility. So therefore, they can't go home and be, let's say they give it to their buddy, or they want to go out and surf something on the internet, and they're all looking at it, and then all of a sudden someone comes up with some not so good intentions. So to protect the company or to protect the dealership, we have that set up on the back end.
Yeah, that's a really nice example. The geofencing is a very nice tool there. Quick and easy to set up. Again, you literally just look at a map and just determine the location where you're happy for certain settings and restrictions and applications to be operational. All right, so I think we're moving ahead. We're running out of time here, so we need to speed up a little bit. But we've certainly got some nice time savings and business advantages that we've seen here. I mean, Ryan, you could think of this really like a summary, perhaps, of what your experience has been like working with Meraki since you started to put it in.
I mean, the mobile app and the features that the mobile app gives you is phenomenal. They've, like I said, once again, kind of similar to the MDM, they've made a lot of changes to the mobile side since I joined the Meraki team, as far as being exclusive with them. I would say overall, I use the Meraki mobile app 9 times out of 10. There's a couple times where the app just doesn't have the exact same functionality as what I need, and I'll go to a laptop or some sort of hard device. But from there, it pretty much does everything you need it to do from an overview.
Yeah, it's a really nice application. I've got it on my phone too, and as you said, many times you can actually go and do the basic troubleshooting that you need to with this app. No need to even go to a computer. You just whip your smartphone out of your pocket, and you've got the information right there at your fingertips. So that's really nice, and that's obviously an app that we are developing all of the time. We're trying to add more and more functionality. You can now make some basic configuration changes with that, and there'll certainly be more to come down the road. So a very customer-centric solution, as you would expect it to be. Just if you'd like to just quickly just think about the integration with CRM and any other comments you'd like to make on that side of things.
If you're talking to me, Simon, no, I mean that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
if they have any questions, I mean, I'll let you take that piece of it. But for the most part, it's just been a great experience with Meraki. I mean, it's simplified our life from an IT management standpoint and a reliability standpoint that we did not have when I came into the dealership. So.
Yeah, very nice. Well, thank you very much indeed for your contribution today, Ryan. Really do appreciate that. I like this little graphic as well. This looks like an interesting couple of cars. So we had a quick look at the dashboard today. I mean, there's always more that we can show you, and we have plenty more webinars in our series. So if you are interested in looking at other elements of the dashboard, perhaps going into more detail on APs, switches, or security appliances, just have a look on our website at meraki.cisco.com/webinars, and we can get you set up there. All right, so I'll start to wrap things up now. Just have a quick look at the product families. We've talked about all of these at some point during the past hour. So we do have a range. In fact, it's 7 models now. I need to update this slide of wireless APs, and both indoor and outdoor APs, going all the way from very basic connectivity right the way through to the flagship MR34, like the one that Ryan showed us today. The capabilities just built into the AP is very, very impressive on its own. I think you're going to really enjoy your free access point and just what you're able to do with it. We really look forward to hearing your feedback on that. Complete range of security appliances, as we said, and so the MX600 is the one right at the bottom of that pile, and then it goes through to a much smaller device design just for a small deployment of up to around 20 users or so. So something for everybody there, and again, it's really more than a firewall. Many security features built in, including that very cool VPN functionality that we saw earlier. Range of 14 different Ethernet switches, going all the way from that little 8-port right up to powerful 48-port aggregation switches with up to a terabit per second of throughput, so some real performance in there, and those really nice remote troubleshooting tools as we saw during the session. And then last but not least, the mobile device management software. I do encourage you to give this a try for yourself. There's no barrier to you doing so. Up to 100 devices completely free of charge, and you can log on and find more details at meraki.com/SM. And we'd offer free trials for all of our equipment. I think that's exactly what the Clint Newell Auto Group did at some point in time, was to run a trial in their own environment to see how it works out for them. So we ship out brand new hardware to customers who are interested in doing a trial. We have a dedicated team of engineers who support those trials and make sure you have a great experience. And if you choose not to keep the equipment, we will pay for it to be shipped back, no problem whatsoever. That's all part of the trial experience. So just log on to our website at meraki.com/eval for more details there. All right, so let's get things wrapped up. I'd like to just thank you very much indeed for attending. Ryan, thank you very much for your contribution today. Really do appreciate that. And so it just remains from all of us to say thank you very much to all our attendees. Thanks for joining and staying attentive throughout the past hour. As you exit the webinar, we will ask you a couple of survey questions, and I'd be very grateful if you could just spend a moment answering those for us. They do help us to ensure that we have a great experience for future attendees. So from all of us on the panel here, we'd like to thank you again. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.